Claude has released a preview of Mythos, which is the upcoming, not to be published, large language model, which, according to official numbers that Anthropic has generously provided in their report, seems to be really quite powerful, a really strong model. And not just in terms of numbers, because numbers don't mean much in April 2026, as quite a few models are, or in general the pipeline is structured for benchmarking, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. However, the real point that I'm trying to make is that this Claude Mythos has actually achieved some breakthroughs, some novel breakthroughs on the field of cybersecurity. And these weren't some small fish either. These were bugs in Linux kernel. Quite ancient, to be fair. I will not hallucinate any number for you. I forgot it. It doesn't matter. It was more than a decade for sure. Old critical bugs that were discovered, sort of, or not sort of, actually discovered by Claude Mythos. Now, why is this important? Well, this is important mainly because it has been predicted, and not that long ago. Meaning these sort of short-term predictions seem to carry a lot of validity. Now, we don't know much about what actually Mythos is, but there's a good guess based on what Elon Musk has shared on Twitter or X. Basically, he himself is cooking at least 5 trillion and 10 trillion models, and my hunch would be that Mythos, I wouldn't, maybe it could be up to 5 trillion, to be fair with you, just a wild guess, but we just don't know. But it should be in this category of models. After all, it is still a preview. They have a little bit of head start compared to Elon, who has just started training these models. The point is, it is probably in this kind of category of models, and we are already seeing this kind of really tangible, I would say, increasingly powerful autonomous capability. Now, this is especially important because we have already seen an open source model which is 1 trillion parameters big, basically, Kimi K2.5, which itself showed some really great, or maybe not great, that's not the word, but a really interesting capabilities in sort of agentic stuff. So you can see the open source is not lacking that much. I'm not in any way comparing Mythos to Kimi, because it doesn't make sense. Mythos is very likely more than triple the size. However, you can see where this is going. And simply by thinking in terms of numbers and graphs, guys, there's like no way we don't achieve artificial general intelligence with this sort of architecture, I would say. Especially if you take a look at the recent papers which focus on the latest progress in terms of compression and stuff. Like, we are still brute forcing a lot current generations of models into something that we can use, we can make use of it, right? there are many, how did they call it, low-hanging fruit, I believe it was called by Ilya, that still need to be implemented. However, that also means that especially the open source models are basically the future, because all these optimizations, we can predict and be pretty sure that most of them will be made open source right from the get-go. So it is pretty much inevitable that we really have opened this Pandora's box of artificial intelligence. It won't be closed, it won't be stopped. Like, you cannot stop this. There's no way. We have seen it. We haven't really seen it in the past. That's really not true. But we have seen similar things in terms of open source power, like Linux, which basically overtook this whole market of servers, basically. After all, even these models, they are being served by servers, and these servers are run on Linux. So yeah, that's the power of open source. And quite frankly, your future AI probably runs locally, either on your phone or your PC or laptop, and it uses a lot of tools to make sure it does not hallucinate if it doesn't need to, and so on. After all, we are already seeing this prevalence of powerful small models. Gemma 4 billion is a great case, and these models really show that, yeah, and especially I have seen the models like 2 years ago, even, yeah, 2 years ago. These were these early Llama 2 models. These were absolutely not usable for anything real. So to see the actual progress with smaller models, 4 billion and similar, and to see how powerful these models are, this is really incredible. Like, and in such a small span, completely open source, you can just download it, you can just run it, no token limits. You are basically limited by the power of your hardware, how many tokens you can actually generate within a certain time frame. That opens up this enormous new almost dimension for people who are not really aware, but you can loop your local AI in this sort of iteration loop, and then the power of AI with tools, especially coding tools, it adds up, it stacks up. And basically, if Mythos only needs one shot to achieve something, you can probably do something locally similarly, but within iterations and probably 10 or 20. Like, it should be possible for some cases, obviously not all. I do not want to downplay the achievement of having such a big model, because obviously there are probably new emergent properties within the data, new patterns, new insights. So yeah, basically this video, what's the point of this? The point of this is that future is not as Anthropic would have liked. They do not have any secret sauce, as far as I can tell, from the release documents and information. If anything, they have a head start. I would say at this point they are somewhat better than what OpenAI delivers with their own ChatGPT product. However, these are just the biggest biggest players for the common folk. I have to say it like this, because rarely you even hear open source mentioned in the media, and if it is, then it is basically downplayed, like it is a generation behind, which is definitely and most definitely not the case. We are so close to the frontier capabilities of models locally with the open source models that people really need to know, because it changes stuff. It means that this artificial intelligence thing is not in the hands of tech bros. It is in the community. We can build our own models which are just as good. And yeah, that's what I'm trying to say with this message. Do not succumb to this idea that really we are on this strange way to dystopia of some sorts. We really are rather not. As long as we can make open source models, as long as we can have this open research in terms of neural nets and artificial intelligence in general, yeah, I think we will be just fine. Which brings me to the last point, guys. As always, keep it real, keep it relaxed. Let us not focus that we are the creators of this technology after all. So maybe our lives will change in sort of the way we live them, but we will prevail. I would say like that. Humans have been through worse. Artificial intelligence won't be the end of us. Have a great day.